Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about inter-process communication using named pipes and mutexes. So this is a bit of a continuation on the previous video that I've done where we made the ChatGPT desktop app. Now while that works, there was one little issue which I wanted to resolve, but I thought I would keep it for a new video as it's a slightly separate topic. So last time, let me just load it up quickly and I can show you. Last time we made the ChatGPT desktop app. So that all loaded, that all works. We made our tray icon, our menu. The one thing that it does do though, which I would like it to not do, is that at the moment it will start up multiple instances. So if you were to go into ChatGPT again, every time you go into it, you're going to get a new instance. So what would be preferable for myself is that if it's already open, it just pops up the window if it's not shown, and we don't land up with multiple instances. So what I thought I'd do today is just go through how we would go about achieving such a thing. I know when I first started out in .NET, it was one of the questions I had, like how do I get applications to talk to each other and how do I ensure I only have one instance of this application running. So I thought, yeah, might be an interesting topic to jump into today. So I think if we start by trying to make the application a single instance, in order to do that, what we need to do is we can use something called a mutex. Now what a mutex will allow you to do is lock a particular resource across threads on a machine. So in order to use that, I can show you quickly. What we need to do is essentially ensure that we only run this application run new form for the first instance that's run. So what we need to do is put a lock around this section of code. Now in order to do that, we can use the mutex class, which is provided by Microsoft. So I'll pop it up just on the screen so you can have a look quickly actually. But yeah, feel free to go and have a read of it yourself. But essentially what you can do with the mutex when you've got multiple threads is you can put a mutex, you can wait, and then if any other thread comes into you, it will wait until this mutex has been released. And only the thread that created the mutex is allowed to release the mutex, so it can't be released by another thread. That's the basics of it. I'll put these links in the description if you want to go and have a bit of a read yourself. But for the purpose of now, I'm just going to show you how we could implement this to ensure that our app is a single instance. So what we can do is we can use the mutex class. So we can say using var mutex equals new mutex, if I could spell. True, and then what we want to do is also pass in the name of our mutex. So I'm going to just call this the name of our application, which is ChatGPT desktop. So rather than hard coding the string, I'm going to use name of. So you can say name of ChatGPT. I think that should be fine. And then the other thing we want to do is, if the mutex is able to create itself, we can grab the variable. So we can say, var out created. The other way around, sorry, out var created. And then what we can do in here is we can say, if we were able to create the mutex, then we can go ahead and we can run the application. Otherwise, we'll just exit. So just with that little bit of code there, that should now allow us to only have a single instance of this application running. So let's give that a go quickly. If I build this, just make sure I don't have it running still. Yep, that's fine. I'll open up the bin folder and we'll just test this quickly. We're in debug, yeah. So I'll run this once, it should start up. And now if I run it again, you'll see it doesn't start another instance of that app. We've only got the one instance running in my taskbar. So the next thing I want to do though, what would be nice is if I already have this running and for instance it's closed and it's minimized into my notification tray, it would be nice when we double click on it and we open it for it to pop up again. Now that's where the second part of the video comes in, which is IPC, which is inter-process communication. Now there's a few different ways of doing that. Generally I tend to use named pipes if it's on the same machine. So what named pipes allow you to do is essentially send messages between processes. Now I have already prepared some code just for the purpose of this to make it a little bit easier for us. So what I'll do is I'll just bring that over for us quickly. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go, got it on the screen over here. I'll give you a quick little run through of how it works, and then I'll show you how we can implement it into our application. So with named pipes, you essentially have a server and a client. So this is an example of the server. So what you would do is you would create a new named pipe server. You give your pipe a name. You can specify the direction, whether it's in or out. This is for the number of instances that you would like running, the transmission mode, and the pipe options for this. So this is we're using the asynchronous version of this pipe over here. So what this does is you start it up and you create your instance, and then you call wait for connection async. Now what this will do is it will sit here and it will block until a client sends it a message, at which point it will read the stream. So this is essentially just a stream that it's reading. It'll get the message, and then you can kind of do what you need to do with that message. And then on the client, it's very similar. You'll create a named client stream. You specify the host. So named pipes also work over a network. For the purpose of this, we're just using it on the local machine, so we just use dot to represent local machine. You specify the pipe name, so that needs to be the same pipe name as you specified for the server. Again, the direction and the pipe options. And this works in a similar way. So you'll say pipe client.connect async, and this will sit here and it will wait until a server is available. So you can actually start these in either order. If your server is already running and you call connect async, it will connect immediately and it will send the message. Yes, then what we're doing is we're writing a message onto the stream, which the server will receive. So what I've done, just to make this slightly easier, I'll share this code as well with you if you want. I made a little library just to assist with making this a bit nicer. So I've made a single instance app class. Now what this does is it just takes in the ID of your app, it takes in an action that it will call to initialize your app, and it takes in a action that will get called on message received, and you can also pass in a message so that you're able to pass arguments between the two processes when the one starts up. So I'll show you kind of how that looks in action. What we'll do is we'll go back over to here, and I've already added this onto NuGet. So if you go into NuGet, you can search for named pipes.helper. You should see that should come up. You can install that. And then once you've got this installed, let me just accept that quickly. And the next thing we need to do is we can get rid of this code here, because I've pretty much handled that in the library. I just wanted to show you how that would work if you were to implement it yourself. Yeah, so pretty much all we need to do is there's a class called app. So if we say app. Just get my using in here. Yeah, using named pipes helper. Then we can say single instance app. We can pass in an ID. So again, we'll just use name of ChatGPT desktop. The next thing we need to do is pass in the action that will initialize our application. So that is going to be pretty much just this. And I can show you actually that it runs in a few different modes. So that's, if we run this as is, I'll just build it quickly. That should have exactly the same behavior as I just showed you a second ago. So let's just try that, make sure it's working. So if we run ChatGPT now, oh sorry, I think I've still got it running. Let me just quit that quickly and build this again, sorry. There we go. So if we run that now, it should start up, and if we try to run it again, it's not going to pop up another instance. So that still has exactly the same behavior, but it still doesn't do what we want, which is to pop up the existing window if it's closed. So let's go ahead and implement that quickly. Let me just quit that. Okay, so if we want to do that, this has a few overloads that you can pop onto it. So this has the on message received. So this is just an action, so that will pass in the message, and then we can handle that message over here. Now what we can do, what we will need to do is just to move this into a variable so that we can access it over there as well. So we'll just declare this form up here. There we go, and we will just pass that in over here as well. And then the one thing we want to do, so now we can access our form in this message handler received. But what we will do is go to the form, and we just need to expose. We already have a show method on there which we made last time, but if we just make this public, then we can call that same show form method, which should show the form, activate it and focus it for us. So we can go to show form, and now if we build that, that should have the behavior that we want. So I'll close that, go here, we'll run ChatGPT. Did I not close it? Sorry, I made a mistake here, sorry. This needs to be up here. There should be a static form over here. And I think actually this is the other thing you need to do. Sorry, my bad, I've made a bit of a mistake here. So you need to make sure you first call this before you initialize any forms. So what we'll do is we'll just initialize it in here, and we'll say equals new form 1. Let's try that again quickly. So if we build that, go in, and then it should hopefully run for us now. Yeah, there, perfect. Cool, so now that's started up. Now if I was to close that, so now that's still sitting in my notification area. If I double click on this again, you can see it pops it straight up for us. If we close it, do that, yeah, it pops the existing form open, and we've only got one instance of it running. So that's now essentially passing a message between the two processes. So that's the basics of it. What I have done, I'll put the link for this in the description if you want to have a bit of a play. I'll show you a quick little demo now quickly of just how you can send messages. So I've made a little example here so that you can have a bit of a play with it. So what I got here, it's got a simple form that creates a server, and it's got a client that you can send messages to. So you can start that, and then you can send a message from here, and that will go there. You can obviously open another form. You could open another instance of this application as well, and you can see that that's all going through the named pipes. So we can close that and stop that. Okay, then I got one little additional demo I can show you quickly, which is very much like what we've done on the ChatGPT app, but this will pass arguments from the one instance to the other. So I've got an example in this project here of the single instance WinForms app. What I'll do is I'll just open that up. So I'll run that quickly. It's a very basic form, it's just got a text box on it. And then what we can do, so if we were to try and launch this application again, I'm just going to run it from over here. So I'm starting the same application, and I'm just passing it some arguments, and we click OK, and you can see that it's then passed through a message to this application, and we can do that again, and we could pass through 3, and you'll see it passes through the arguments. That's another way, that's how a lot of things like Skype and stuff work. When you click on an email address and or a phone number and it pops up Skype and starts dialing, they use that in combination with a protocol handler, which is something else you can do actually. It's also actually included in this project here. You can make yourself your own protocol handler if you would like. I haven't registered this one now, but you can register it, and then essentially in Windows, and you can make a link on your web page as well. You can make your own protocol, and you can say test whatever you want, and that will launch your application. So you specify the exe, and then it will pass any arguments through as well. So that would be how you do that. In terms of how that's implemented over here, very much like we just done in the ChatGPT app. You do the single instance, handle the message, and then there's a separate function over here, or just an argument, where you can specify the arguments. So if the application started with arguments, you can then forward that message through to your existing running app. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the basics of that. I'll upload and push all these changes to the Git repo if you want, so you can have a look. A quick and short one today. I think maybe the next video I'll show you how to do some dependency injection in WinForms. Bit of an interesting topic. It's not something I've used dependency injection in previously, but it's yeah, something to explore. So hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.